Luffy Gear 5 was nothing short of amazing. The animation was without a doubt some top tier business. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't think it was just a little bit underwhelming. Hear me out real quick. Now, for a good while, we've been seeing manga panels of Luffy's new transformation, right? And of course, with that comes the hype of eventually seeing those panels in anime form. Now, when I first saw this, I had a feeling that this transformation would imply that Luffy now has Toon Force abilities. I mean, it's not exactly the most far-fetched idea, especially considering the fact that Looney Tunes inspires the hell out of Ichiro Oda's art style.
Obviously.
Now, back then, I thought they were just going to be another case of high-level animation sequences when the episode finally debuts. But then, sometime later, we get the news that Gear 5 was also going to have some animators from Warner Brothers throwing their talents into the mix. You know, WB is, of course, known for animating the Looney Tunes. And I'm not talking about the rebooted current iteration of Looney Tunes. I'm talking about the old-school classic joints. Now, with all this hype surrounding the debut of the Gear 5 episode involving top-tier animators and directors, naturally, my expectations were pretty high. And in all honesty, I was not disappointed. But at the same time, I wasn't entirely satisfied. But only by a little bit. But see, the reason being is because aesthetic-wise, it wasn't nearly as cartoonish as I was expecting it to be. Other than that, it mostly just looked like how high-level One Piece animations usually look. What I was honestly expecting was a change in the style of animation. Now, basically what I was expecting was for this joint to kind of look something like Cuphead, but in the form of an anime fight. Basically, the whole designs of the characters would start to change, or at least the way that Luffy looked would start to look more cartoonish, but he just really looks more bendy. But when does he not look like that though? Now, what it basically ended up looking like was an anime trying to emulate the way a cartoon looks while still looking like an anime. Kind of like how we have Western animations that try to look like an anime, but it's obvious it's a Western animation. In a way, it almost kind of feels like those American how to draw anime books, only this doesn't suck. I don't know, maybe I just set my expectations just a bit too high when I heard that some WB animators and the whole thing about the Toon Force stuff. I don't know, maybe I was just expecting a little too much from that. Now, does this mean that I thought this joint was bad? I mean, bro, come on. Bro was out here moonwalking on his way down towards the earth to lift up a piece of the ground and use it as a slingshot. Like, how can you possibly think that shit don't look fire? Now, could this fight have leaned more into emulating that Looney Tunes style of animation? Yes! Is Gear 5 as iconic as Goku's Super Saiyan 1 transformation? Not really. And that's not a diss. I'm just telling it like how it is, bro. But see, I think the mass internet hype plays a huge part in why some people may have felt just a little bit underwhelmed. And no, I'm not talking about the people who don't really give a shit about One Piece and just decide to jump all the way to this episode because of the fear of missing out. When something ends up receiving this amount of hype, you tend to set high expectations because you're thinking, damn, this must be some seriously next level shit going on if these people are really this hype about it, bro. And then when you see what this hype was all about and it doesn't live up to the expectations that you had, more often than not, some people, or hell, even a lot of people, tend to end up with a negative viewpoint about it. And in classic internet fashion, instead of just saying it didn't live up to the hype that they had for it, they'll just say,
that shit sucks! Damn!
Now, I'm not gonna lie, I felt the same way about the Batman movie. You know, everybody was hyping it up as one of the best Batman movies they ever saw. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Batman, but I honestly did not feel the same way when I saw that joint. To everybody else, it was the best thing ever. When I saw the movie, to me, it was just aight. Now, it doesn't mean I thought the movie sucked. I just don't feel the same way that they feel about the movie. See, with this whole Gear 5 thing, the internet hype is where I think the problem comes from. You see, back in the day, right, you had Goku's Super Saiyan transformation. Now, back in those days, the internet, let alone social media, wasn't what it is today. There was no internet hype of people going, hey yo, wait until they animate this episode, bro, this shit gonna go hard. Motherfuckers was not out here on AOL telling people,
hey yo, make sure y'all tune in to Dragon Ball Z next month, bro. Goku's Super Saiyan transformation, that shit gonna be more iconic than Fist of the North Star, bro.
Nah, there was none of that shit. There was just the hype of the previous episode's cliffhanger, and then there was the debut of the episode itself. And for the people that saw it back then, not to mention the people who would later end up watching it on Toonami, a little bit later in the 90s and the early 2000s, they'd all end up just seeing the episode and they would enjoy the anime in the moment. That was it. It just happened. You could even say the same thing occurred with some later animes in their iconic moments, like Zoro taking on Luffy's pain, Guts slaughtering 100 men, Naruto unleashing the Nine-Tails, Rock Lee when he dropped his weights on the ground, Eren Yeager becoming a Titan for the first time, Roy Mustang flaming the shit out of Envy, Dio unleashing the world, Gohan going Super Saiyan 2, Vegeta sacrificing himself to kill Majin Buu, Goku going Super Saiyan 3, Vegito's first appearance, Ichigo unlocking Bankai for the first time, Vasto Lorde Ichigo, hell, even Dangai Ichigo in his final Getsuga Tensho. Now, as dope and iconic as these anime moments were, they were actually just enjoyed in the moment that they happened in. The hype for these moments came only after the fact. Now, yeah, social media back in those days did exist. But from about the mid to late 2000s till about the early to mid 2010s, social media was still pretty much in its adolescent stage. Nowadays, it's pretty much all the rage. It's to a point where companies can't even afford to ignore and avoid social media like they used to back in the day. In today's day and age, when something big is about to happen in an anime, YouTube, the Bird app, Facebook, everywhere starts going crazy about the shit, and then the hype train takes off. And the thing is, not everyone who jumps on the bandwagon actually cares about what's happening for real. They just don't want to miss out on the conversation, even though they never really cared about it to begin with. Like, they'll skip right to the end part and then be like, bro, I don't even get what y'all was so hype about, bro. This shit don't even make no sense.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Like, bro, if you've never fasted at least once before, then you'll never understand why people act as if that first cool slip of water after sunset is one of the most satisfying feelings in the world. You didn't experience the journey that led to the destination. That's like never watching a single MCU movie and you just skip straight to Endgame. It's like, dog, you're not experiencing the full story. You can't just watch Iron Man 1 and then skip to Thanos. It ain't gonna work. Just think about it for a second. Just a couple decades from now, when Zoomers become the new old people, right? We're gonna see that generation that's gonna be too lazy to watch movies. You think shit's bad right now where we got motherfuckers who's too lazy to read books, even if they got pictures in them, bro. Wait until them motherfuckers show up. Oh, y'all gonna be livid as hell then. It's gonna go from, bro, I'm not reading all that shit, to, bro, I'm not watching all that shit. Anyway, to go back to the point on Gear 5 not being as iconic as Super Saiyan 1. Gear 5 is what Gear 5 is, but I wouldn't put it on the same level of being as iconic as Super Saiyan 1. I mean, now if we're gonna call something that Luffy did as being comparably as iconic as Goku's transformation, then as far as I'm concerned, Luffy already reached that point years ago, and I'm talking about back when he unlocked Second Gear. Second Gear Luffy, in my opinion, is a much more iconic moment than Gear 5. I'm talking about from a narrative standpoint to the moment itself, even down to the pose that athletes have imitated as a victory stance. And I say this because just like Super Saiyan 1, it just happened. The hype was in the moment that the transformation occurred, not because of the internet hyping it up. So you could even say that Gear 4 had that same kind of energy. But as for Gear 5,
what's "and" supposed to mean?
Just means
Now again, this is not to say that it's not a good transformation or that the episode was bad, but it wasn't this. Now, like I said, I wish the fight looked a lot more cartoonish, but hey, I'm not going to speak on the entirety of the fight yet because it's only just started, and I'm pretty sure there's probably even more left that's going to look even more impressive than what we saw in this episode. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what y'all think and we can chop it up in the comment section. Peace.